think in racing, there are a lot of variables that are out of your control. You have to just control, what you can as a driver. I think it's the adrenaline. Like, I think we're all just adrenaline junkies around here. Because even today, when I was doing like the demo laps, you go through a corner at X amount of speed, like 5 times faster than any regular person does, and like, you literally just smile. Like, it's like, this is so badass, right? So cool. So it's a privilege to go that fast, and I don't know. I'm also a very competitive person, so winning at the top level is what like gets me up in the morning. Need to make sure that I'm prepared and I'm ready to do the best job, as soon as the green flag flies in session 1. So I get in that car, take a deep breath, I do a virtual lap, make sure I have all my data and reference points from, the pre-race packages that were sent out, and it's time to go do my job, As soon as the engine fires, it's no nerves, you have to be a little bit robotic in the way that you just kind of go to work.
When you get behind the wheel, does time stop? Do you get pumped up? Do you kind of find a sense of peace? What do you feel when you step behind the wheel before a race?
The best way I can describe getting ready to race, or almost like getting in the zone, is that no matter what the situation is, whether I'm starting last on the grid, first, whether this is the race for the championship or the first race of the year, I'm always a little bit nervous before the engine fires, but as soon as the engine turns over and the 4 cylinders come to life, it's just quiet. Like, the brain goes quiet, the butterflies go away, and you're just 100% focused on what you're doing. I don't know why it's that way, but when you push the button and the engine turns on, your brain definitely turns off. In all seriousness, to be a race car driver and to operate at that level of speed, you have to be a bit of an adrenaline junkie. I mean, I'm kind of numb to the speed a little bit, like shift up to 6th gear and kind of look around, and I'm like, it doesn't feel any different than usual, right? So it kind of becomes the new normal. And then I get back to driving on the road and I'm like, please, why is the speed limit 80?
Since 1986, the Honda Indy Toronto has been a key focal point for motorsports. Of course, Toronto, a challenging street circuit, one of the most challenging you'll find anywhere around the world. Also packed with very passionate race fans, always trying to support the local talent.
The pressure of Toronto and the weekend in general, racing at home, it didn't start on Thursday. It started like 2 weeks before, man. The prep that goes into a weekend like that, because not only am I a race car driver and that's my job, I also have to be presentable to the media, presentable to my sponsors, interact with fans. Off-track activation is huge, right? So we've been planning that whole weekend for like months. It was kind of a bit of a balance beam in Toronto, understanding what needed to happen, what I wanted to do, and then what actually happened, all off track. During the weekend and in the car, it's not too bad. I think it is very easy to get overwhelmed in between sessions though.
Good cheeky passing opportunity if the guy's down.
First lap is sick here.
Same sort of thing, you're a little bit uphill coming into it, and then it kind of starts going downhill right after.
On a track walk, you're seeing the racing surface for the first time. It's almost like stepping on the field. You have all your notes, all the video that you've watched, hours and hours of prep work. You get on the track walk and you kind of, relate those two things and get a good understanding of what you're stepping into the next day when you're rolling down Lakeshore doing like 240K, right? Our year has been like difficult to say the least. Our best finish is 4th. We've done it multiple times now. My goal for the hometown race was a podium, which I hate that was the goal. You gotta limit your expectations, right? You need to understand what's possible, what's achievable. As a driver and a human being on the planet, in a high pressure weekend like that, you're almost like a bucket. You're a bucket full of water, right? And you only have so much water to give. So you have to kind of be a little bit stingy with your resources, and you can't say yes to everything. So you need to make sure that you're doing the right things to keep your mind at ease. You can't be, running around like a chicken with your head cut off the whole time.
I'm going to be on the radio, okay? Just letting you know. A little bit of a crosswind going into turn 1. Probably the braking going into 4 is going to be a little bit sketchy. You're going to have a tailwind there.
looked at notes for 2 months that have said break at the 300 board, but lap 1, session 1, it's not gonna be possible to break at the 300 board. It's probably gonna be more like the 400. And on a street track, the circuit gets better every lap, so you have to constantly be changing what you're doing every single lap in order to maximize performance. Q1, I think we got very unlucky. We initially did have the pace on used tires. I think we were top 3 for a majority of the session in Q1, right? We came into box to put another set, and then almost immediately, I think like 2 laps later, I hadn't even had the front tires like properly fired up yet. They take time, you need to bring them in the right way, get temperature. The red flag came out because someone hit the wall. So, I mean, for Q1, I'll just put it down to a variable that I couldn't control. Q2 was tougher. I think it's almost easier to move on when something that's out of your control prevents you from doing well. Q2, the performance was just poor. We started out okay again. I'm very good on the first 3, 4 to 5 laps of a session on cold tires. I find comfort in pushing the racetrack and kind of finding out where the limit is each time we step on. As everyone started to come in and the time started to drop and everything got warm, we struggled. So we pit for the second set of tires again in Q2, and that's kind of where it went wrong.
What happened? We boxed to put tires, and the red came at the wrong time. We like did an L lap, and then just brutal time. With you on for like half the session, man.
If you're not upset, then why are you there, you know? If you're not upset with qualifying anything but first, then I don't think you should be competing at a top level. Take the information, digest it, be mad about it, you know, but understand why it happened. Why did we qualify 10th? Why wasn't I first? Then I think that's kind of when you calm down, you make logical decisions, and you move from there. But also you have time before the race, right? So by the time I put my helmet on for the race, it's a different scenario, and I think my mind is in a different place. But immediately after, I definitely let myself get a little emotional. That I don't feel was very much in my control. It's frustrating for sure, like when the red came out on the track, you know, said some things over the radio that weren't PG rated, but we have a fast race car. I have confidence in my ability, and we'll look to rebound tomorrow in Q2 for sure.
80 degrees right now trackside here on the streets of Toronto, just outside BMO Field in the Enter Care Center, and it's time to go at it here now with 25 laps of racing for the drivers at the very top level of the USF Pro Championships. If you're here in the grandstands because you're a Canadian racing fan, this is the guy you're watching right now. Starting on the inside of row 4, P7 for Milton, Ontario's Mac Clark for D-Force Racing. Clark looking to try to work his way forward to get a strong run here in the home race.
I'm big on the routine. Usually I put headphones in, listen to music, big music guy. Get dressed methodically, slowly, make sure everything's clean, it's in the right order. And then to the football, walk to the grid, strap in the car. It's a visualization process. I do it either outside the car before I'm about to strap in, or sometimes when I'm in the car as well. The belts are on, the helmet's on, no one can bother me. I close my eyes and you just go through the lap corner by corner. You know, where you're gonna brake, how you're gonna turn in, where you're gonna turn in, what the whole circuit looks like from the driver's perspective, and any things that you wanna fix or change.
Let's work hard on the brakes here. Make sure they're nice and ready for the first lap. Remember, if the track's fast, we also need a good lap during the race, so I'll keep you updated.
In all seriousness, to be a race car driver and to operate at that level of speed, you have to be a bit of an adrenaline junkie. I mean, I'm kind of numb to the speed a little bit, you know, like shift up to 6th gear and kind of look around and I'm like, it doesn't feel any different than usual, right?
To the front straightaway. Time to go for race number 1 of USF Pro 2000. Just 4 races to go in the season, and we are underway. Green, green, green.
Lap 1, one, played the cards right, got to the inside line, turn one, avoided a large wreck on the outside. It's gonna happen, it's a street course, everyone's aggressive, they wanna win. We came out of lap one in P2 in what I thought was a very good position to win the race, so I was very excited about that. Did a few laps under safety car, green flag lap after the restart. I was hunting the leader down, and in the last sector, I literally almost crashed. Like it was really close. It was like a full opposite lock moment, and I think I got overtaken, and I spent the next few laps in third. Spent a lot of time in third, and at that point, I knew that we didn't really have the package to compete for the win that day. From there on out, I think it was kind of damage limitation, making sure I got good exits, being as defensive as possible, trying to retain the position, and we ended up 6th. I was not happy about that. I got overtaken a few more times, just didn't have the pace.
What goes here?
What was the position of the other?
The hardest part about racing is all the variables. There are so many things that you cannot control in a race that happen, and that can either contribute to your, success or not. So when you have something that occurs that is not in your control and it ends up going the wrong way for you, it kind of sucks, It's not the best part about racing, that's for sure.
What did you do that night to blow some steam off after the race?
I went back to the room, I ordered Osmos, chicken and rice, and I went to sleep. I watched YouTube and I went to sleep. I was not happy and I was tired.
We're back again here on a beautiful Sunday morning here right on Lakeshore Boulevard, just outside Lake Ontario.
You have to be conscious of it. Like, if I was making a certain mistake in race one, if something happened that I didn't like, I'm gonna fix it for race two. I'm not gonna go out there and do the same thing, but you definitely don't want to be dwelling on the past while you're driving.
I want to go out there and have some fun. I was talking to Hinch last night, and he's done this a million times before. We've gotten through the difficult part of the weekend. We know what we have going into the Sunday race, and you need to go out there and enjoy it, man. It's a good opportunity and a privilege to race around the streets of Toronto.
Let's have a look at the field here for USF Pro 2000, all part of the Continental Tire Grand Prix of Toronto. The hometown boy, just down the 401 in Milton, Mac Clark for D-Force, racing in the number 7. The Canadian set to start on the outside of row number 5. Time to go racing, and we are at it. Green, green, green. And Burlow from the back, going to go to the outside. They'll fan 3, 4, 5 wide, coming down to turn number 1. That does not look good. Contact in turn 1. One driver into the wall. Make it 2.
The strategy is definitely different for the second race. If you're starting 10th, it's an even number. You're on the outside for turn 1. There was 2 crashes on the outside of turn 1, both races. So the first thing I did, had a really good jump initially with the green flag, made sure that I got in line. I wasn't too nice to the guy beside me, made sure I got to the inside, and it saved me. Instead of coming out P15 in turn 1, I came out P5, so it was a huge win. I think once everyone settled in, I realized that overtaking was going to be quite difficult. At the same time, it became apparently clear that the guy behind me was actually the fastest guy on the racetrack. So I had the engineer in my ear telling me that he was purple, which for people that don't know means like fastest lap. So that was definitely a little bit of added pressure, knowing the guy behind you is the worst possible guy that you would ever want behind you. But I did a good job defending. I had my spotter in my ear, he was standing up on the X-Hotel, and he was giving me gaps and information, so there was a lot of pressure, held him off for 20 laps with no mistakes.
Matt Clark, who started back in 10th up to 5th. This is a big weekend for him. This is where he wants to do well. Biggest fight right now, I think, is for that 5th position, as Cooper Becklin is glued to the gearbox right now of Matt Clark, just trying to find a way by.
I was scrapping it out. It was crazy. Like, it was a huge scrap, like P2 all the way back to like P6, and then there was a wreck on the last lap behind me. But the last lap, man, I was defending like crazy. I was like, they call it like white lining in racing, because your tire's like on the inside white line. Like, wasn't giving anybody an inch. But after I was content, was a little bit disappointed that we didn't get the podium, but I was happy with the result. 4th
spot across the line will go to Matt Clark. He was able to get through George Garcia-Arce as the yellow flag flying aggressively coming down here to 1.
I think it was a positive event overall. I had a good time, friends, family, supporters there. We had 2, very decent results in front of the home crowd. I would say that the week as a whole was a success. We generated a lot of interest in the racing program. I feel like I did a good job on the track as well as off the track, and for me, that's what matters the most. Getting back to the winning ways, man. It's been 365 days longer since I've won a major race, and I came from a very successful time period in my junior career. Like, there were 3 or 4 years there where I'd win a race almost every weekend. So you need to get back to the winning ways, need to find something there, get back on the top of the podium, win a championship, and then keep moving up the ladder.
What's up, guys? First of all, I hope you guys enjoyed watching that little short documentary as much as I enjoyed making it. I don't even know whether to call it a short documentary. It's like 14 minutes, which is pretty long in the grand scheme of things in terms of other short form content on the internet. But that being said, this project was truly a labor of love. We shot that back in like June or July of last year, and now we're in March of 2025. So a lot of time has passed, but I wanted to make sure with a documentary like this, I took my time to craft it as much as possible and, take advantage of the fact that I'm not limited by a 1 minute, 3 minute, or 5 minute time frame. I was able to truly tell a story over an amount of time I chose to be appropriate. And I haven't been able to edit a long form project like this since I was in university. So it was a lot of fun just to sit down and throw everything out at the wall and see what stuck and, tell a story the way I wanted to tell it for a guy like Matt Clark. I learned a lot throughout this process creating this documentary, especially when it came to letting go of my original expectations for the project. And what I mean by that is this was originally supposed to be like a 3-minute short film, and it ended up morphing into like a 10 to 13 minute short form documentary. If you guys weren't aware, I ended up setting myself the challenge last year to create 10 short films with 10 athletes, and this is technically one of them, but I really had to let go of my constraint of making this a short film and really embrace the fact that this was a full story that was worth telling, in my opinion, which is why we ended up with this longer project. And I, like I said, learned so much of this process, and I want to share that with you guys. So in the next few weeks, I will be releasing a bit of the behind the scenes breakdown on how I shot it, the gear I used, the actual process to create it, how we shot the interviews, etc., etc. So if you guys have any questions about what you watched, about anything I just talked about, leave them in the comments down below, and I will do my best to answer those comments and those questions when I do the breakdown in a couple of weeks. I want to give a few really quick thank yous before I sign off here. First off, to Matt Clark and Stu Clark. Thank you guys so much for letting us into your world this weekend. That was a really, really special experience. Something that I love doing is following an athlete and gathering all that raw content, that raw emotion, and just documenting what it's like to actually be an athlete. That is why I get up in the morning. And I could not be more grateful to them for letting us be part of their world and be invested and, have a camera in Mac's face. And if you guys have worked with athletes before, it's not necessarily the most comfortable thing, but Mac was a fantastic sport. His entire team was super welcoming. So a big thank you to the Clark family and the team for having us around and being so accommodating for our content capture needs that weekend. Secondly, to Nicole Shapiro and Niru Singh, two people that this documentary would definitely not be possible without. Nicole was a fantastic second camera op. Without her second angles, especially during the race, and I will talk about this in the breakdown, this project would not look nearly as good. Nicole, you are the best. If you're watching this, thank you so much. To Niru, who has been the producer on this project, helped me kind of bring it all together, bridge the gap between me and Mac, and started that connection. You kept this project on track the whole time, and truly would not be possible without your organization and your expertise and knowledge in the racing world, which proved to be super handy, especially when, getting this over the finish line when it came to the story. To you two, thank you guys so much. I really, really appreciate it. If you guys enjoyed the documentary, make sure to leave it a like down below. If you guys have any questions or any positive comments you want to say or feedback about the documentary, make sure to leave them in the comments down below. And if you guys are new here and haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so. That is going to do it for me here. Stay tuned for the breakdown in the coming weeks, and I'll catch you guys then. Peace.